Hi, everybody, and welcome to my webinar. My name is Tiana Dodson. I'm a holistic health coach, and we're here today to talk about Healthier Holidays, a guide to thrive. I'm super happy you're here to join in with me today. I know that it takes a lot to take some time out and, you know, have lunch with me and talk about this pretty important subject, but I'm glad you guys are all here. So that's so super. Thank you. It's that time of year again. Holidays are here, and everywhere you look at this time of year, you're bombarded with the message that you need to survive the holidays. But I'm here to tell you that, God forbid, unless something horrible happens to you, that you inevitably will survive the holidays. Good news, right? But we're not here today to talk about surviving. We now know that's going to happen. We want to talk about thriving. We all know that, but with them, they bring family, friends, lots of good food, lots of celebrations. And with these celebrations, they fill us with joy, but they also serve to add a bunch of things to our already overflowing to-do list. What does that mean exactly? It means we're doing lots of cooking and baking, lots of eating and drinking, and there's lots to organize. I myself completely love the holiday season, and I love it because it enables me to cook these huge meals that are full of recipes I learned from my mom and other beloved relatives over the years. So I am a planner, a bit of a planner, and I try to carefully plan out how I can make all of these baked dishes, including roast meats and breads, with only one oven, and still somehow find a way to serve them hot. But in the meantime, I'm washing, I'm peeling, I'm chopping, I'm doing all this cooking stuff. I have a limited number of pots, like most people, and often they're too small um, for what I need them. And also, often the stove is a bit too small too. But, in spite of all of this cooking and all this good stuff, chopping and all that stuff, there's still dishes to wash in between because I have this one good knife that I love, and all of the bowls that I own are full of ingredients waiting their turn to be mixed in. So I'm sure that if you've ever prepared a large meal for more than just your normal household, you completely understand. So we know all this stuff is happening. We know that all these organizations have to be happening. So what are the results of this? Well, basically, the beloved recipes that we prepare during the holidays also tend to be full of fat and sugar and starch. And even though they are endlessly yummy, they tend to be hopelessly unhealthy. And when we eat them, we're reminded of that one holiday so long ago that we spent together with our family when we were kids, and we had so much fun and love and happiness surrounded us. And basically, we tend to overindulge, which causes us to gain weight, and it makes us feel bad about it. Um, because these foods are comfort foods. We have emotional connections to them. And because we're adults, sometimes these same people who brought us so much joy in our younger days may now, unfortunately, bring us stress. Because the holidays are inevitably stressful. Because now it's us who are responsible for providing the joy for everyone else. And this overindulgence and weight gain and guilt happens every year, this cycle. So in response, we decide to diet over the holidays. But the problem with that is that deprivation sucks. And honestly, no one really wants to be a dieter or dieting over the holidays. Because basically, the holidays should be enjoyable. We want to thrive, not simply survive during the holidays. So what do I mean by that? Let's just talk about the definition of thrive. Uh, the dictionary on my Mac says thrive means to prosper or to flourish. These are important words here. And the Merriam-Webster dictionary online says to progress toward or realize a goal despite or because of circumstances. So what is our goal? What is our goal? Our focus, our goal is to be healthier. Be healthy even during the craziness that the holiday season brings, but also to enjoy it in spite of the challenges presented. So with this in mind, I'd like to give you some tips on how to make this happen during the holiday season. So, freshness, great quality, love, all these things matter when you're picking out the ingredients that go into your meal. The best thing about being the chef is that you have complete and total control over what goes into your dish. This is really the easiest way to add health to your meal. So here are some tips to help you thrive during this holiday season if you happen to be the one in charge of the cooking. So tip number one, simple tip, you've probably heard it before. Add veggies to everything. Celery, carrots, onions, garlic, bell peppers, these things are usually on the ingredients list anyways. Just add more. It hurts nothing and helps everything. So that's something really easy to do when you know that vegetables are in there anyway. But dishes that normally don't have vegetables, this is where you get to be a little bit more creative. Go ahead and try adding some veggies where you normally would not have them. Here's a couple of examples. Baked macaroni and cheese. This is something that's standard on my Thanksgiving menu. One way to make this a bit healthier is to add some pureed pumpkin. Pureed pumpkin's a lovely thing. It's something that goes really, really well with the Thanksgiving meal spread, and it's creamy. And of course, because you're adding this, you're cutting the amount of cheese. You're removing quite a lot of fat from that baked macaroni and cheese dish without losing anything. Here's another example, gravy. Go ahead and add some mushrooms to your gravy. They give a great pop of savory flavor, so you're not just having this, fatty kind of condiment that goes with all your meal. You're adding something a little bit healthier. Mushrooms are super healthy, full of protein and all kinds of good stuff. And of course, you can always just add more veggie dishes to your menu. Everybody kind of has this, standard green bean casserole, and often this is the only vegetable dish on the table. But go ahead and feel free to get creative and get colorful. Add some salads. Add garnishes to things. Garnishes are also edible. They're miniature salads in their own. So feel free to let it go and add more vegetable dishes to the menu. Another way to make things a bit healthier is to use less sugar. Simply just use less. Most recipes are really still good with about half the amount of recommended sugar. I mean, cake is still cake if it doesn't have 2 cups of sugar in it. Cake is still pretty good with 1 cup or even half a cup of sugar. So you can always replace sugar with dried fruits. So examples of this are dates and cranberries. I mean, cranberries are tart and sweet and traditionally part of the meal anyway. So adding dried versions of them just adds flavor and goes along with the whole spread. Raisins add these lovely little bursts of sweetness. Plums, also known as prunes, these things are gorgeously sweet and tangy, and the best part is they can even help with digestion of that overly indulgent meal. You can even add dried apricots to things for another little pop of tartness and sweetness. But always with using sweeteners, taste before you add more. If you find that half a cup isn't enough, or half the amount is not enough, add a little bit more, but just a little bit. But keep tasting along the way, because chances are you don't need as much as you think you do. And of course, you can always use natural sweeteners. Basically what we're trying to do here is we're trying to opt for less processed versions of sweeteners and trying to stay away from the refined white sugar. Now, of course, you might be thinking, well, I don't use refined white sugar. I use brown sugar for everything for Thanksgiving. Here's a caution. Brown sugar is simply just white sugar with the molasses added back into it. So it's really not better than refined white sugar. So, I mean, you can use agave syrup or maple syrup, honey, even stevia. These are some natural sweeteners you can use. And honestly, how much better would your pumpkin pie or sweet potato pie be with a bit of maple syrup in it? Think about that. Another tip, use less salt. You've probably heard this one before. Again, simply use less. One super way to do it is to try using no salt added bouillon cubes or broths. I find that no salt added bouillon cubes and broths tend to be more flavorful because salt is not that number one ingredient, which means they are forced to have more flavor because they don't have that salt flavor. And you can even try making your own broth. This is really simple, and it's super yummy and nutritious for that matter. So with all these scraps that you would usually throw away, the bones from meals past, you can boil these down and make your own broth. And not only are you reducing your waste, but you're also reducing your need to go buy some stuff during that Thanksgiving rush. And just like sugar, with salt, taste before adding. Because chances are your own taste for salt is nowhere near what the manufacturers of salt-first broths or bouillons think it is. And when you're not adding salt to a dish, just a little sprinkle of salt is sometimes enough. And often you don't even need it, especially if you're using herbs and spices instead. Because herbs and spices add a lot of depth to the flavors of any dish without adding anything but health and goodness. I mean, herbs are essentially miniature leafy green vegetables. Try using some sage, basil, thyme, rosemary, oregano, mint. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. They're full of wonderful, healthy nutrients that we should definitely be eating in order to have a healthier holiday. You can also use spices. These are also super packed with healthy compounds. Things like turmeric and garlic, ginger, mustard seed, pepper, cloves. Try to find them fresh for the most benefits and the best flavor. However, if you can't find them fresh or you're not really ready for that, go ahead and try, packaged or ground versions. These are just as good. The point is to use them. Another healthy tip is to substitute whole grains instead of refined grains. And why would we do that? Well, number one, they have more texture. They add to the complexity of the dish, so they make it more fun to eat, more enjoyable. In addition, they're full of fiber. Fiber, something you've probably heard about. It's necessary for the healthy elimination, which is certainly important after such a big and heavy meal like we tend to have during the holidays. It also helps you feel satisfied, more satisfied, with eating less. And it also slows the insulin response, so you're not having these gigantic sugar highs and sugar crashes. And this is really good if you're trying to maintain your weight, trying to make sure that insulin response is pretty mild. In addition, the slightly nutty flavor of the whole grains also complements the holiday meal palette really well. So again, substituting whole grains adds a lot of depth and fun to the dishes you're already making. So here's where it gets tricky for most of us. We tend to do well in a familiar, friendly environment, like our own kitchen, our own dinner table. We have control there. It's all familiar. We know what's going on. But then we go outside. We get around friends and family. And sometimes that means we lose our ability to refuse politely and say no. And that's okay. You still have control in this situation. You never lose your right to choose. So if you are invited, you can always try asking your host if you can bring along a dish and basically just make something healthy using the tips we just talked about. Or if you're not a cook, that's okay. You can always stop by a local grocery store on the way to your your meeting with friends and pick up a pre-cut veggie tray and eat it when you get there. This is a nice way to go ahead and get those vegetables in without them being on the table because you put them there. And in any case, if neither of these things are doable because you're traveling or you're in an unfamiliar area, you don't have time, that's understandable. Here are some strategies we're going to discuss right now, how to thrive if you are invited. Number one, easy, drink more water. The best part about this is that at the end of the meal, in spite of how much water you drank, you'll still be in shape to drive home. And that's always a nice thing, especially if your host doesn't have enough space for you to crash on the sofa. The super thing about water is it actually quenches thirst. That, maybe is caused by the dry turkey or the heavy dishes that you're eating. It also cuts the calorie intake. When you're drinking soda, soda is pretty high in calories, unless you're drinking diet soda, but diet soda is nothing good for you anyway. But to keep in mind, sodas are simply just wet sugar, and that's not good for you. They're not quenching your thirst. They're just increasing your sugar intake. Juices, on the other hand, are a bit healthier, but the problem with them is they're also pretty sugar heavy, also calorie heavy. And water also helps you to feel fuller faster. But you have to pay attention here. We don't want to use water to fill up our bellies instead of eating food, because simply too much water in your belly during a meal can cause your digestion to be less effective. And also, we want to enjoy food. We don't want to go home and have to go to the bathroom 4 times and have our stomach rumbling later. We want to have enjoyed the food that was put on the table in front of us when we're visiting with our friends and our family. So drink more water with your meal, but still enjoy the food. And of course, every part of health includes a bit of movement. Movement is super healthy for us. So what do we want to do? It's a little difficult sometimes when you're invited to somebody else's house, but propose a game of charades. Charades is pretty fun. It gets people moving around. It's also this nice bonding experience. It can really enrich the whole experience of being together with friends and family. And benefits of charades is it's pretty funny, and laughter is something that can burn some calories. So that's something that's pretty good to keep in mind. Also, take a walk around the block. Get everybody together. Put on your shoes and your coats, go outside. Or if you happen to be in somewhere warm, put on your shoes and go outside and take a walk together around the block. It's always so much more exhilarating to take a walk than to take a nap in front of the football game. Plus, if you take your walk, you got in your good movement. If you still happen to be too sleepy, you can always now go ahead and take a nap in front of the football game. But definitely you should get in some of this movement to go ahead and make that holiday healthier. And there's always the option of checking out a community outdoor activity. Lots of communities organize things. People get together, fun runs, 5K walk, things like that. And of course, you get extra points if you happen to be volunteering while you're moving. So keep that in mind. That not only makes our body healthier, but also our spirit. And these things are super. So you see that lovely pie, that beautiful cake, that stack of cookies that brings together those memories that you have from a child, those tasty, tasty things that are made by grandma or your auntie or your mom. And essentially, you should actually have a piece. Have a piece of pie. Have a piece of cake. Eat one of those cookies. Because guess what? Deprivation causes binges. I'm going to be good. I'm not going to eat any cake. I'm not going to have any pie. I'm not going to eat any of these cookies. And then the next thing you know, when you get home, that entire package of cookies you bought last week is gone. It just disappeared. And guess what? That was a binge. This is what happens when we deprive ourselves of what we really want. So have one. Have one of these tempting goodies. Have one. And while you're having it, savor the complexity of the flavors. How does it feel in your mouth, gliding over your teeth, over your tongue? How does it feel? And how are you feeling while you're eating it? Do you feel happy? Do you feel safe? You feel warm? You feel like you did when you were 7 years old? Do you feel loved? All of these things could happen simultaneously. None of these things could happen. But basically, food is something that is emotional. The majority of the serotonin, that great chemical in our brains that makes us feel love, this is actually produced in our gut, stimulated by the food that we eat. So food is emotional. Science has proven it. So cherish the love that you're experiencing by eating that food, by letting yourself have a piece. And while you do it, you might find that the whole piece of cake or that whole cookie is more than enough. So of course, you have to give yourself permission in order to have that one piece. And this is simply an act of self-love. And don't you love yourself? I love myself. I'm going to have a piece of cake. Don't you love yourself? You should also have a piece of cake. Because the truth is that you do deserve it. It's completely true. You do deserve to have that piece of cake or pie today. So enjoy something, and enjoy it now. There's no reason to wait for it. Give yourself permission to enjoy something. Now, sometimes it gets tricky because when we give ourselves permission, sometimes we do overindulge because it's a new thing for us to have the permission to really enjoy something, to actually have that piece of cake. So if you do overindulge, it is completely okay. Forgive yourself. Give yourself some grace. Don't beat yourself up. You have to pay attention to your self-talk. That little voice in your head that's always saying stuff, always providing commentary over the things that you're doing. Would you talk to your child like that? Would you say these things to someone you love? Think about that when you hear that little voice playing in your head. That's only yourself talking. But pay attention, because self-hatred and negativity really just serves to increase your fat storage. And this is something we want to avoid. This is not healthy. So as we're forgiving ourselves, we can always learn something. Consider what stood in the way of you sticking to your plan. What was the problem? What was the challenge? What was the thing that caused you to overindulge, that caused you not to be able to stop at one? What was that thing? Think about it, and think about what you can do better to control yourself better next time. And you'll learn something. Of course you did. In that way, nothing is lost. Everything is gained. So really what we need to do is we need to eat mindfully. This is applicable to every meal that you ever eat for the rest of your life for maximum satisfaction. Because what's healthier than being satisfied? So how do we eat mindfully? We start by simply slowing down. Slow it down. You have time. Take the time. Take smaller bites. That food is not going to run away from you, hopefully. It'll be there when you're done chewing. So take that smaller bite. Take it slow. With that smaller bite, chew thoroughly. You remember that thing that you heard when you were a kid about chewing once for every tooth? Sometimes it's not possible to chew all that many times, depending on how many teeth you have, but just keep that in mind as you are chewing thoroughly. It helps you to digest if you chew things thoroughly. If you're having some trouble slowing down, then just try putting your fork down between bites. This forces you to take that time to chew and to slow down, because there's a lot of motion that happens. Fork from mouth to table. Move your hand away. Helps you take that time. And while you're taking this time, pay attention to the signals that your body is sending you. How do you feel? Check in with yourself. Think about it. Like, really think about it. Are you feeling uncomfortable? Are you feeling like this food is tasty, but it's not, you don't have to shove it in your face. You're feeling less pressed to continue the eating. If that's what's happening, then satisfaction is on the way. Pay attention to that, because basically you have the option to stop when you are ready, not when your plate is empty. It is completely okay to leave food on your plate. Unfortunately, that thing that we used to be told by our parents when we were young about saving starving children in whichever country your parents decided children were starving in, unfortunately, your eating more does not save those kids. So it is okay to leave food on your plate. Stop when you're ready, when your body feels good, not full. Because honestly, does it really feel good to be full? When you have to unbutton your pants, lean back and breathe really hard, I mean, that doesn't feel good. So keep that in mind while you're eating mindfully and you're applying these strategies. So what comes next? Well, basically, you get to go celebrate. The party invitations have either arrived or are on their way, so prepare to enjoy. Feel free to begin using these new tools to make your holiday a happy and healthy one. Feel free to start today, since of course these tools can be used at each and every meal. And the more that you use them, the more you practice, the better you get at them, the healthier you'll be. However, sometimes implementing new tools is a little bit difficult, and if you find that you need a bit of support around integrating these habits into your holiday life, get a holiday helping hand. You can start by signing up for a complimentary coaching session with me, and after that, you can choose to continue with a 2-session holiday coaching package where I help to provide the support you need during the holiday season. And of course, you can always connect with me if you like what you heard and you want more. I'm on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter. And you can always sign up for my newsletter, my monthly newsletter, which gives you tips on how to integrate health into your everyday routine at my website, www.tyanadodson.com. So thanks everybody for listening. Have a super day.